Based on the latest developments in Beyond the Gates, with Hayley continuing to poison Bill against Tomas, caught confronting Lynette, Naomi being stretched thin between the pain of separation from Jacob and the pressure of her family, while Lynette begins using secrets as blackmail. It is clear that this storyline is operating like a chain of power-driven dominoes. One lie is no longer standing on its own, but pulling down trust, family order, and even the ambitions that were once hidden behind a glamorous exterior. At Fairmont Crest, no storm ever begins with its first roar. Everything always starts with the smallest shift in someone's gaze, with a sentence that seems harmless, with a feeling of unease that the people involved deliberately ignore because they are not yet ready to admit that the ground beneath their feet has already started to crack. Bill is exactly the man standing on that kind of ground. He still appears with the bearing of someone who is used to controlling the board, used to using calmness to keep others cautious, but beneath that composed exterior lies a quiet, lingering exhaustion that even he does not want to name. The closer Bill gets to Hayley, the more he seems to feel that his life is being pulled away from its old orbit. The danger does not lie in Hayley being overly ambitious. It lies in the fact that she knows how to turn another person's weakness into a weapon for herself. She does not attack head-on. She does not create scandal with explosive moves. She does something far more frightening. She drips suspicion, one drop at a time, directly into places where cracks already existed. That is how she makes Bill look at Tomas differently. That is how she wants to turn someone who was once trusted into someone disposable. And that is also how she is pushing herself closer to an abyss she still cannot see. If this storyline's axis of power must be analyzed, Bill is not simply the center because he has money or status. He is the center because every character around him is staking part of their future on how he chooses whom to believe. Hayley needs Bill as a doorway into a more secure position. Lynette sees Bill as a source of gain that someone else is occupying through deceit. Naomi sees Bill both as her father and as a symbol of a family structure she has never fully escaped. Kot sees Bill as a man surrounded by too many layers of concealment and too little truth. When one character becomes the point where so many needs converge, tragedy becomes almost inevitable. In a structure like this, Bill only has to make one wrong move for everyone else to immediately reveal the darkest parts of themselves. Hayley is not dangerous because she is too powerful. She is dangerous because she always acts from the fear of being pushed outside. That is the core motive that makes her both aggressive and unstable. A person who truly feels secure in their position usually does not need to step on others to prove their worth. Hayley is the opposite. She attacks Tomas not only because she dislikes him, but because his presence reminds her that Bill still has connections beyond her control. She wants Bill to see Tomas as a threat because as long as Tomas remains standing, she will always have to live with the fear that she is only the temporary choice. What makes this storyline so compelling is that it does not turn Hayley into a one-note villain. Her controlling nature is tied to a very deep feeling of inferiority. She wants to enter the world of power, but the harder she clings to it, the more she exposes that she never truly belonged there. That is why every act of manipulation she commits carries panic inside it. She does not simply want to win, she is terrified of disappearing. And yet Fairmont Crest is the kind of place where desperate people are rarely the only ones holding secrets. Lynette is the shadow growing larger behind Hayley's back. If Hayley represents the kind of manipulation born from insecurity, Lynette represents the kind of person who sees chaos as an investment opportunity. She does not need morality, and she does not need emotional loyalty to anyone. What she needs is leverage. Once she discovers that Hayley and Randy built layers of deception to steer Bill in directions favorable to them, Lynette does not choose exposure. She chooses participation by forcing her way into a share of the profit. This is an incredibly rich psychological detail and also the key to understanding why this storyline is becoming more frightening by the day. Lies are no longer just tools of protection. They have become currency. Once secrets can be bought, bargained, and traded in exchange for influence. Every relationship in the show automatically loses its ability to trust. Bill thinks he is inside a relationship. In reality, he is standing in the middle of a black market of personal motives. That is why Lynette is the kind of threat that shifts the story from emotional drama into strategic warfare. Hayley can still act out of anger, out of fear of abandonment, out of feeling threatened. Lynette cannot be reduced so easily. She is cold enough to be patient, clear-headed enough not to waste her advantage too soon, ruthless enough to turn a small secret into a tightening noose that her victim cannot cut loose without exposing all of their own dirt in the process. Hayley once thought she was the one controlling the game. But the tragedy of half-skilled manipulators is that they usually realize they are being hunted only after they have gone too far. From the moment Lynette starts demanding more, Hayley is no longer the active player. She becomes the prisoner of the weakness she created herself. Naomi is the necessary opposite pole that gives this storyline emotional depth. While the others circle Bill out of greed, fear, or calculation, Naomi is torn between genuine feeling and the burden of inheritance. The fact that she has to live through anniversary days separated from Jacob is not just romantic pain. It is a test of endurance. She is a woman trying to stop herself from breaking while every one of her most important connections is under pressure. She misses Jacob, worries about him, resents being left in silence, and yet she does not have the luxury of collapsing for too long because the world around her still expects her to stay strong. That is the kind of tragedy that feels deeply human and perfectly aligned with the spirit of soap opera. Love does not always grant you the right to be fragile. Sometimes people have to force themselves to keep moving even while their hearts are splitting apart. What makes Naomi compelling is not just her pain, but the way that pain is slowly turning into willpower. When Kat tells Naomi how Hayley tried to cut Tomas off at the knees, Naomi no longer reacts like someone who only knows how to suffer. She begins to look at the issue with sharper instincts, with more practicality. There is a beautiful movement in her character here, from someone drifting because her marriage is being tested. Naomi is gradually stepping into the position of a woman who knows how to use information to fight back. She does not act loudly. But that very shift from enduring to observing, from pain to control, is the clearest sign that Naomi is growing into a character with real weight in the family's power structure. If Bill is the current center, Naomi could become the center of the next phase. Not because she is more aggressive than anyone else, but because she has the strongest ability to combine emotion with reason in a lasting way. Kat plays the role of the one who sees the paint beginning to peel before the wall collapses. Characters like Kat are often dismissed as too curious, too intrusive, too eager to dig into other people's business. But in the structure of a show like Beyond the Gates, that function is absolutely essential. Kat does not react simply because she likes stirring trouble. She reacts because she has an allergy to hypocrisy. And a community like Fairmont Crest, where every form of power is wrapped in etiquette, politeness, and elegant gestures, is exactly the environment that makes that instinct of hers both irritating and necessary. When Kat confronts Lynette, when she tells Naomi what Hayley has been doing, when she inserts herself into Tomas's situation even though she knows people may resent her for it, that is no longer simple curiosity. That is the instinct of someone who cannot bear to watch wrongdoing continue simply because everyone else is too tired to speak up. From an analytical perspective, Kat is the force that breaks false stability. Characters like Hayley and Lynette are only strong as long as everyone else stays silent, keeps protecting appearances, and remains afraid of making things explode. Kat does not operate by that logic. She is willing to make the atmosphere worse in order to drag the truth into the light. That is exactly what makes her such a special threat to people who live behind masks. At the same time, Kat is dangerous in her own way because she does not always fully grasp the consequences. She may hit the sore spot, but she cannot always control the chain reaction that follows. And that is where tragedy opens up. A person telling the truth can unintentionally trigger even crueler reactions from people who have spent their lives surviving through lies. When all of these threads are woven together, what the show is doing especially well is showing that family power and emotional life cannot be separated. Bill cannot handle Hayley the way he would handle a legal case. Naomi cannot grieve Jacob and remain outside the family war. Scott cannot go after the truth without colliding with the interests of powerful people. Lynette is not only threatening Hayley, she is threatening the very order Bill thinks he still controls. This is the kind of structure that allows tension to spread from the living room to the office, from the dinner table to bedroom secrets, from private relationships to the larger question of who gets to control the family's shared narrative. The more closely one looks, the clearer it becomes that the heart of this storyline is not about who lied first. The real question is, who will be able to survive the truth once it breaks open? Can Bill survive learning that the woman beside him does not love him in the way he wanted to believe? Can Hayley survive the feeling of being slowly strangled by someone colder than herself, like Lynette? Can Naomi survive the burden of protecting her heart while carrying the weight of the family legacy? Can Scott survive the reality that the truth she drags into the open does not save anyone immediately, but instead shatters everything even further? And Lynette, who seems to believe that holding the advantage is enough, may also be heading toward a brutal lesson of her own once you start playing with the secrets of too many people at once. Sooner or later you become a target yourself. That is why what lies ahead is not just a simple unmasking. It is an emotional reckoning. Once Bill starts connecting the scattered dots, he will not only lose his trust in Hayley, he will have to face the most painful truth of all, that he helped create the conditions for all of this because he chose to listen to what comforted him instead of what challenged him. Naomi will no longer be innocent enough to stay safely inside the boundaries of her private sorrow. Scott will keep pushing the truth further, even if the price is being branded a troublemaker. Hayley will struggle harder not because she still has a path to victory, but because people like her are always most dangerous when they know they are about to lose everything. And Lynette, who believes she's holding the strings, may soon discover that in a world where everyone hides a knife behind a smile, no one can blackmail forever without turning themselves into living evidence for the next collapse. And that is exactly what makes this storyline so gripping. No one here will be able to return to who they were once the door to the truth opens. Once the glossy paint of Fairmont Crest begins to crack, what emerges is not just deception, but essence. Every person will be forced to choose who they really are when there is nowhere left to hide behind money, reputation, or sweet words used for the wrong reasons. In a world like that, pain is no longer the ending point. It becomes the catalyst. And from the simmering wounds between Bill, Hayley, Lynette, Naomi, and Scott, a far greater explosion may be only one mistake away. What do you think if Hayley and Bill end up divorcing? Would Hayley even agree to it? And if they do divorce, would Bill find his way back to Donnie, his ex-wife? If you have even better ideas or more interesting predictions, share them in the comments so everyone can discuss together. I truly appreciate every contribution and all of your support. Thank you so much. And if you have not followed us yet, please scroll down and hit the subscribe button.